Destin Legary here, and guess what? I don't know how to build a PC, but I'm really excited for Crysis 3, and I want to play it with the best graphic settings my wallet can afford. Well, we're gonna do exactly that. And by we, I mean myself and Dan Stapleton, the editor-in-chief of GameSpy. Crysis, long known as the graphically taxing tester of the PC, is gonna look face-meltingly gorgeous on my new rig. Hey, if a noob like me can build a computer that will make it look like this, then so can you.
Do not jeopardize the mission now.
Let's take a look at the parts we're recommending for this $1,450 machine. For the case, we chose the Cooler Master Half XM RC922XM KKN1 Black Mesh Plastic Steel ATX Mid-Tower Computer Case. Oh, that's a mouthful. For the power supply, we got the Corsair CX750M. Good. For the motherboard, we got the Gigabyte X79 UP4. I don't know what that means. For the RAM, we got 16 gigabytes of Ripjaws RAM. For the processor, we have an Intel Core i7-3820. For a graphics card, we got a 2 gigabyte EVGA GeForce GTX 670. We didn't go for the 680 because we wanted to save a few bucks. For the hard drive, it's pretty simple. We just got a Western Digital 1 terabyte 7200 RPM drive. For the optical drive, we got an Asus DVD-RW. And we got the gigantic heatsink Enermax EchoMaster CPU cooler. That thing is a monster. And for the operating system, we'll be throwing on Windows 7 64-bit. All right, let's do this. Dan, editor-in-chief of GameSpy. We have all this stuff in front of us. Where do we start?
With the motherboard. This is the nerve center. And you want to put the CPU in this thing before you do anything else.
All right, let's open it up. And what are all these things that are in here?
We got all manner of goodies in here. This one's fun if you have a bunch of multiple graphics cards. This is how you strap them all together.
Okay.
But
and what's that
won't
called?
Be doing that. That's an SLI bridge.
Oh, okay. What's this thing?
That will go in the back of your case, and that's where all the USB and audio outputs and Ethernet and everything will come out. Make sure you don't have a gaping hole in the back of your PC.
And it's color-coded, which is nice.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this over there. So we do still have the case that is under here. It's just out of the way for later. Now what?
So here we have a cover covers up the socket for the CPU.
So I just like unclamp this?
That's right.
All right, so...
Those will clamp the CPU down into position.
Oh, okay, there we go.
All right.
Okay, and so this is the CPU. We're going to go ahead and open this guy. Let's see what's in there. It's a Core i7 quad core, you said before?
It is a quad core.
All right.
It is the brains of the operation.
We'll probably be careful with this piece.
Yeah, I mean, they're sturdier than they used to be, but you still don't want to handle them too much or do a whole lot of fiddling with it. They are keyed to fit only one way in here. So what you want to do is match up the corners. So there's a notch here, and a notch here, and a notch here. So you
I noticed there's this
up.
black dot. What's this black dot?
I'm not sure what that is, but make sure the notches line up with the socket on the motherboard.
That way, but it does that way.
There you go.
Oh, look at that!
All right, success.
Right. So then we just close it up.
Clamp it down.
Put that guy down there first, and this guy. And we're done. Throw it in the case, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You're pretty much ready to play Crysis.
Oh, okay, all right.
Step 2, I would probably go with the RAM because that massive heatsink over here. This is going to go on top of the CPU, but right now it's just going to get in the way.
For the record, you do not need to buy a heatsink that big, correct?
You do not need one.
Yeah.
Like that is overkill for most situations. If you're going to overclock or if you live in a hot area, some extra cooling is nice. So some motherboards, or most motherboards these days, have multi-channel RAM slots. Okay. I'm guessing here it's going to be the gray ones that you want to start with, but you want to check and make sure you put the RAM in the right slots, otherwise it's going to not perform as well as you'd like.
Oh, so there's a diagram.
There are diagrams.
So it says slot 1 is here, the gray one?
Yeah, I think it's the gray ones in this case, yeah.
Okay.
So you want to put it in...
So right here, these are the first, this is slot 1 and 5, right here.
Yeah, the gray ones. And you gotta unlatch this on both sides.
Okay. I'm so glad you're here.
And make sure that the RAM is keyed to the arranged properly so that it will fit in the slot. Okay. It'll only go in one way.
There we go. I think that's correct.
So yeah, you shove it down until you hear that nice little click.
Okay, and where's our other stick?
Right
okay, there. And this one just goes right beside it?
No, it goes in the other gray one.
Okay. All right.
So as shown in the diagram of whatever motherboard you get, you want to arrange it so that they are on the same channel. And that will allow these two sticks of RAM to work in tandem so that they are performing at basically twice the speed.
So let's say worst case scenario, I'm an idiot and I just plug them into the wrong slot. It's still going to run okay, right?
It'll run okay, but it's not, you're not going to get the performance you paid for.
Okay, so you want that extra performance, make sure you put it in the right slot. All right, now what?
All right, so our next step, at this point we should go for the heatsink, I think.
Okay,
Because
this guy,
Yep.
this thing over here.
that monster.
Okay.
This is probably the worst part of any computer build, is dealing with a heatsink.
Okay.
For whatever reason, they've made a million of them, and they're all just terrible to work with.
Okay.
But, so very closely follow your instructions.
So for example, we did look over them, and we know we need these parts
Yes.
for this particular build.
This is labeled as LGA 2011, and that is also what the type of motherboard this is.
So that means we don't need this guy on the bottom, like the diagram shows. We just need these parts and those washers
Right.
to start.
To start.
Yeah, so let's start with that. You just screw those right into the motherboard.
Yep.
Let's see. All right, so we're just gonna screw these on here really quick. So, got those on there, now what?
All right. Next step is to take these two dealies, which prop up the heatsink and basically will help to hold it down.
Okay, so put them on there. Do I put them like this or like that?
I think they only fit one way.
They fit both ways.
Oh, they do?
It would seem. This way,
The diagram has them pointed this way.
towards the RAM.
Yeah.
Or no, oh wait, so,
Perpendicular, not parallel.
okay, all right.
You gotta
Screw it down.
Screw it down.
All right, cool.
You don't want these suckers getting away from you. I've heard they can be troublesome.
Yeah.
So now comes the fun thermal paste application.
Yes! Let's not screw this up, right?
Right.
Because we have a very limited amount of thermal paste.
That's actually plenty of thermal paste
okay.
for one application here.
Okay, this seems like it's a really important part. Like, do not make a mistake here.
Yeah, I mean it's not
You do
as
it once
hard.
and you're never going to do it again, right?
Yeah, make sure to take the plastic off. Yeah, I mean, eventually thermal paste can become degraded, and reapplying can help you cool your CPU down a little bit.
But you'll be building another one by that point,
Right.
maybe?
Yeah, probably. Okay. So what you want to do is put about a pea-sized lump on there.
All right, pea-sized lump. How big are your peas?
A little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger. That's good.
All right, that's about the whole tube, so I hope it's good.
All right, so then what you do is you take a business card or a credit card or something like that, and you kind of evenly spread this out.
Oh, okay.
So, is there any more in that tube?
Yeah, I could probably get
Yeah,
some
see
more
if you can
out of
squeeze a little bit more on there. Put it like around the edges. All right, and you want it as evenly distributed as possible, because this is what prevents your CPU from overheating.
I'm letting Dan do the messy stuff, just in case you're wondering.
All right, and it'll squish against the CPU and even out a little bit there as well, as long as you don't have any big gaps.
So before I set this down, does it go like this or like this?
Let's see.
Like this.
So what we're going to do is there's this gap at the bottom here. So this is going to go down here and secure this to these things we've got in there. So you want it
like
that way.
this?
That's right.
Okay. With the fan out, or do we want the fan to go that way?
Well, it's actually symmetrical, so we can swap the fan as needed.
So let's put it this way, just because like that way, we're not going to plug anything else in over there, or we want these slots.
These are going to be where your graphics card goes.
Okay. So we will put the fan towards the front. That's what I'm making the call. I'm going to set it down.
Okay. Is it not long enough?
It'll go. I got to kind of force it down.
Yeah, this is the only time that in a PC building project that you have to apply force, is where the heatsink is concerned.
I don't think that's going to work.
No?
So what I'm trying to do down here is make sure the holes are, there we go. I got it.
All right.
Okay, so this part has sucked so far, Dan. Like 100%.
Yep.
Let's get it over with. So now we need to put these guys on.
Tighten these down.
And that is why we actually have the wrench.
Yep. They gave us
You
a
know
whole
what? This
wrench
fan is in the
yesterday.
way, so I'm going to remove it.
Yep. So you're gonna have to pull down and then there you go.
Okay. So
don't lose those.
yeah, we'll move the fan out of the way so that we can get these bolts on here and screw them down. Okay. Tighten it with our fancy wrench.
Don't over tighten, but tighten. Now, this is something that fortunately you only have to do once. If you're giving your PC a shakedown later, you'll want to check to make sure these are still tight. They don't have to be, super duper tight.
Okay.
But just tight enough so that it's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna come loose because this fan will be constantly vibrating. So. That can come loose eventually if you don't give it a good tighten.
And if it's not tight enough, I suppose that I could just pull out the wrench and tighten it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this power cable for the fan is going to go where?
Generally, let's see. That is around here somewhere. The CPU
Is it right
fan.
here?
No, it'll say CPU fan on it.
CPU fan.
There you go.
Right there. There we go. That's attached. And then we'll just plug this in. Now for this, we're just going to turn this here so everybody can see what I'm doing. The cord is going to run to CPU fan, like Dan said, and it looks like there's a tab in there. And as you can see on this side, there's another tab, so I assume it goes in there like
It
that.
will only fit one way.
Okay, good to know.
And most of this stuff is set up, in an intelligent way so that they can only happen one way. Which is why, again, that the CPU, the cooler is so frustrating because it's one of the more complicated pieces. Everything else pretty much just plunks right into place.
All right, so fan's on, RAM's in,
All right,
CPU's in, thermal paste is on. Now what?
it's time to put it in the case.
And we get to put stuff in it now.
It's a hefty sucker.
Oh yeah, it is.
They call this a mid-tower, so you can imagine how big a tower is.
So I'm actually going to take off at both sides because we're going to be working on the inside of this guy for a while.
The funk. This stuff is very important. Here we've got our motherboard risers, and that will
Rise the motherboard?
That will raise the motherboard off of the metal and prevent it from shorting out. You absolutely must make sure for every riser you put in, there is an equal and fitting hole. All right, so I'm gonna just line that up. You can see each of these holes in here. You got holes there, but you can see that there are generally more holes than there are in the motherboard, and they do that because there are various motherboards that can fit in this case.
So it looks like we need one in MP and A. MPA.
So why don't you go ahead and put those in?
Okay. So I'm just going to hand tighten these and use the pliers to just make sure that they're appropriately screwed in. You just need to tighten them, not a ton.
They just have to be flush with the case.
Yeah.
All right.
They seem pretty tight. All right, what's next?
This has to go in the back here.
Okay, no.
There's a gaping hole here where your ports will stick out in the back.
Okay.
And you want to make sure that you get that put in the right way. It actually goes in from the other side.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And this you might have to whack it with the back of your screwdriver to get it into place.
Actually, in this case, that's one thing that went surprisingly easy today. Yeah. All right. I'll take it.
One more thing I want to do before we put the motherboard in is get the power supply in there.
All right.
Because once the motherboard is in, it becomes a little bit harder to work in the case.
Okay.
This is a nice beefy power supply.
This is and it goes down here in the bottom, it looks like.
Yep.
Should we remove this?
I guess maybe that does come out. Maybe we should pull that out to make it easier.
Dan, are you excited for Crysis 3?
Yeah, it does look better than Crysis 2 did. Which, both just from a strictly visual standpoint and also, let's see, I think it might be upside down. Where is it? If you want the fan generally blows out of the case.
Okay. So like this?
Yeah.
Okie doke. Good to know.
Yeah, Crysis 3, both the gameplay and the graphics look even better than Crysis 2.
Yeah.
Crysis 1 I still think is probably going to be the better game, but... All right.
Okay, so that's in there. Now we need to fasten it down, I assume.
That is correct.
So we gotten this lined up. Now we're just going to screw them in the back and get it flush with the wall there.
And you want to make sure that those are pretty tight as well, because anything with a fan in it is going to be wobbling all over the place, lots of little vibrations, and that can eventually shake loose over time.
All right, well tightened.
All right, so now it is time to put in the motherboard.
All right.
Here she comes. So you want to make sure that the ports line up. That's a very important part. Excellent.
There we go. They're in there.
All right, and now you put the motherboard screws into the risers. So generally you have to kind of apply some pressure to hold the motherboard closer to the back of the case. because this thing back here, that covers the ports, is a little bit spring loaded, so you're gonna have to push into it. But as you put in more screws, it's going to
Get easier.
hold it for you. So one thing we didn't really cover is the concern about static shock. Generally, you want to be touching some kind of metal if you have any carpet anyway. You want to be touching some kind of metal while you're handling these parts. It's always a good idea to touch the case, the metal, to discharge any electricity that you may have built up unknowingly.
Okay, so the motherboard's in, the fan's in, heat sink's on, power supply's in. What's next, Dan? Let's put in the graphics card. Can we do that?
that's the last step. All right.
Let's put in a hard drive.
There you go. All right. Well, actually, let's do the optical drive. That's just as easy.
Let's put in the optical drive.
You see, you've got these panels here, and these panels will all pop off as needed. All right, so pop that out.
So there's just little tabs in there, and you press them down, and it just goes inward. And then you just gotta fiddle with it a little bit and get it in there. So then this, you just slide it in.
Slide it right in.
Yeah, slide it in. Slide it in. Slide it right in there. Come on. There we go.
There you go. Something easy for you.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
And then kind of put it flush with the case.
Yep. And now you just reapply that to.
All right. So then all you do is you take this and you put it in there. And I'll show you on the second slide, but we're doing the same thing on the first slide. So we slide it in there.
Now to get the screw holes lined up.
So it's a lock. So what we did, can you see? Okay. So what we did is we opened it and we took this off, correct? And then there's a latch in there. You just slide it in. Then you kind of pull it up a little bit and slide it in, and then flip it to locked, and it's locked back in there.
Yeah. And that is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
yeah, and it looks like they've got room for you to screw in as well if you want.
We don't need that.
Well, the optical drive can get noisy because again you got a moving part in there. So if you want to lock that down further and screw it in really tight so it doesn't make a lot of noise, you can. Honestly, with a modern PC, you're kind of rarely going to use the optical drive.
Yeah, I can't remember last time I used mine.
Yeah, mine's collecting dust, but in this case we're having it for old time's sake for our retro games that we have on disc.
Okay. What next then?
All right,
hard
drive? Yeah, let's get the hard drive in. And this is another modern convenience of case design. This has a hard drive tray. Used to be these things would face toward the motherboard, which was really obnoxious because especially if you have a graphics card in, it's impossible to get to that. So
how does this go in there? It's just
pretty much just the way like that.
Let's get it latched in there, and that locks it.
It will lock it down to this, so it's not gonna lock yet.
Oh, okay.
All right, so
then we just.
Well, before we do that though, we should plug it into the cable because otherwise, we'll probably want to pick up the case to do it.
Well, hold on, let's.
Yeah, okay, well, that'll be fine.
Put it in there.
Fine.
And then, I see how it works. You push it in, and then that's supposed to go underneath.
And there you go.
Like that.
And hard drives are another source of vibration, especially conventional ones. SSDs don't move at all because there are no moving parts in them.
Okay.
They're solid state as opposed to mechanical.
So there's our hard drive.
All right.
Now what about our cables?
These are SATA cables.
Okay.
And those are what you use to connect your hard drive and your optical drive.
Plug it into this guy, right?
Yep.
It's like right here, the smaller piece goes into there.
That's right.
And you run it through here, I assume, or wherever.
Yeah.
We'll do the top one so that we use up less cord space.
All right.
And then how do we get power to the hard drive?
The power cables are something we should turn around again because we have to show off how we're doing this. All right, Mr. Power Supply here has a big bunch of cords.
All right, let's untie it.
Yeah. There are a bunch of little holes here.
Yeah.
Those are where these plug in.
So these holes here.
Yeah. Most power supplies these days have this kind of modular setup, so you only plug in what you need. Don't plug that one in yet.
Okay.
So that way you have fewer loose cables floating around. Are these all? Oh, here's the one we want right here. All right. So
we want one of these guys.
that's right. So this guy.
Let's show people what this looks like.
This is a power cable for your hard drives and for your optical drives. And an SSD will use that same kind of connector port.
This goes to your hard drive,
And
this
your
goes
optical
to
drive.
the power supply.
That's right.
And your optical drive.
That's right.
Optical drive and hard drive, power supply. And this can also be used on a solid state drive,
That's
which
correct.
is another type of hard drive.
Yes.
Okay.
So our drive is a SATA. I assume we plug into one of those.
That is correct.
Okay, I will plug into this bottom one. Give it plenty of space from. I'll do it properly. There we go.
And you kind of squeeze it right into there. And if it doesn't fit, then it's probably upside down.
Yeah,
That
these
one goes. It does take a little bit of pressure.
These are keyed, so there's only one way they can fit. So if it's not fitting in, it's upside down.
Yeah. So let's plug this into the power supply and get our hard drives going. If I can see what I'm doing. All we're going to do is here's our cable. There's our hard drive. Done.
Shazam.
So like the hard drive, we are plugging a SATA into the optical drive. There we go. Done.
All right. So now those SATA cables plug in down here.
Okay.
So we're finally plugging something into the motherboard.
Yeah.
The moment we've all been waiting for.
There we go.
All right, and now
It's
the other
getting
one.
easier. There we go. Looks like we can still plug in 2, 4, 6 hard drives in this guy.
You could
if we
go.
wanted to.
You could go crazy, and you've got plenty of room here.
Yeah.
And a couple other optical drives if you wanted to.
Yeah. All right, so that's all done. It looks like, I think I know where this goes. Are we ready to plug this in, or do we want to wait?
That I think you can plug it in now if you like.
Okay.
And that's where all the power for your CPU comes from. Rather. All right.
Anything else that's got to be plugged in?
Not right now. We got to install a few more things.
Okay, what's next?
In order for the computer to turn on when you push the on button, you have to plug the on button, which is up here, into the motherboard down here so it knows what you're trying to tell it.
Okay. Okay.
So you want these guys. These guys are all labeled.
okay.
Let's get them as untangled as we can here.
All right.
So look at the side of one of those and tell me what it says.
All right. So we will start out with reset switch.
All right.
Reset SW.
There's a series of pins that you have to plug each of these
So
into.
right-
Oh no! This is
Oh,
zero.
right here.
Yeah.
Minus and plus. So way down here.
I think it's on the other side, isn't it? No, you're right. Okay, you got it. All right. So there's also the speaker, which is if your motherboard is having problems, it will beep at you.
Okay. So over here, and let's plug that in. So is there a wrong way to put the positive and negative?
Yeah, and it just won't work.
Oh,
So
okay.
if it doesn't work, we go in there and fiddle with it and
Swap them around.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got our speaker dangling. All right. So we're plugging in the power to the motherboard.
More power to the motherboard. Yeah.
More power to the motherboard. All right. Slot.
So if you wanted to plug in some fans, okay, so plug that one into the power supply here.
Okay. With this side.
Yep.
And I'm gonna just slide that right in there also.
All right. So now you've got a fan cable here. You can plug that into. I think it should only require one. Yeah. So what that actually allows you to do is do kind of a daisy chain setup. So you could just pass the power through that and plug something else in there if you needed to, but I don't think we will.
There we go. That one's in, and then plug this one into here, and just get it in there. There we go.
Yeah. All right. Right now we have the hard drive, the optical drive. We've got our power supply. We've got our CPU and our heat sink. Our motherboard is all screwed down. We're in good shape here.
Did we get through the graphics card?
I don't know. Have you been good?
Yeah.
All right then.
We have some ports, some various ports here. Which one does the graphics card go to?
So you've got 3 different PCIe slots here. That
Okay.
means
That are-
actually no. These are 4 different PCIe slots.
That's these, correct?
Right.
And these are PCIe 3.0s.
Right.
And there's even a 4th on the bottom. I think I want to plug it into the bottom, or the middle at least.
Actually, we should
I
check.
don't
We should check on the motherboard and see if there's one because there's usually a primary PCIe slot. All right, I guess this one is cool with any of these slots.
Any of them. All right, so let's do the top one. There's just screws here for slots, like we did with the front, and we're just going to unscrew one of them, and then these back panels just come right off.
Since we're not installing a bunch of other stuff in this system, any other expansion cards, like you can get like a dedicated sound card. This one has pretty good onboard sound, so we don't need that. But some of these other slots, you would have to worry about covering up. but in this case, we don't have to worry about covering anything out.
Okay, so our cable looks like we have plenty of clearance, and I just slid it in there. Now I just press on it, right?
Yep.
Done.
Ka-ching.
It's in. And look at that. There's our power spots.
Yep.
So that cable that we plugged into our power supply before is right here, and we just plug it in. I assume to this
Upside
one?
down. Upside down.
Upside down. All right, so let's plug it in correctly.
But one thing we should do actually is get those screws. Yeah.
Okay, so the
those in
screws
there.
from before. So these things have screws on top. You save them because it's what locks your stuff in place.
Yep.
All right, so we have another power slot here. Should we plug that in also?
Absolutely.
Right.
These cards are very power hungry beasts. And this power supply that we have here is kind of overpowered for this particular configuration. But what that means you can do later down the line, if you want to get another graphics card and plop it in here, you'll still have room to grow on there. You'll be able to run both of them in either NVIDIA SLI, which they're working in tandem, or you can dedicate one to PhysX processing.
Oh wow!
Which you can then max out all of your physics effects in something like Borderlands 2 or Batman: Arkham Asylum, or sorry, Arkham City.
Yeah.
So this motherboard supports HD audio from its front panel connectors. So make sure you plug in the HD audio connector to the motherboard.
Okay, what is this AC97?
That's the old one. You've got the fancy new stuff.
Yeah, okay. Sweet. Let's get that in there. All right, that's good.
All right, now, yeah, there you go. And we're going to plug in our front panel USB 3.0 connectors.
That's this thing.
That's right. So that gets plugged in right next to the graphics card there in a very inconvenient spot.
Yeah, it's really tight.
We probably should have done that first, actually.
Okay. Yeah, well, it went in there pretty easy that time.
All right, now we can plug USB 3.0 stuff directly into the front of the case.
All right, so is that everything? Are we kind of ready to plug power in?
I think we're just about ready to go.
All right, Dan, let's do a quick test and see if this actually turns on.
Yay!
Oh, thank God. I really did not want to go through
got
reconnecting everything.
We got some fans running. I guess we didn't plug in this one up here, but we can get to that later. Again, you've got lots of fan power in there. It's probably not going to have any heating problems, and the fewer fans you plug in, the less noise you're going to make. But again, if you're in a warm area, or if you've got your computer in an enclosed room where it's going to get hot just from running for a while, you want to plug in all your fans.
Cool. Well, everything's hooked up. It's running. Now let's get that OS installed.
All right. After installing Windows, remember everything's not going to be running as well as it should until you install all the correct drivers. Windows will have some for most things built in, but you want the real deal. You'll have some on your disks, but you should also go to the manufacturer's website and make sure you get the most up-to-date versions.
T475, 1 second, control getting readings.
All right, everybody, we got our rig built. Crysis 3 is up and running, and I think it looks great.
I concur. I'm very proud of our bouncing baby PC boy here.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. We've been experiencing pretty high frame rates, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, between 45 at the very low end and like 55 at the high. It's running extremely smoothly.
Yeah, as you can see on the video, we're sitting at like 58 right now in game. It'll dip down a little bit in combat, but this game is great. Like, it looks freaking phenomenal on this machine. I'm very happy that I have it.
And it'll serve you well, not just in Crysis, but in pretty much any PC game you throw at it for the next year or two at least.
Yeah, and this is just the beta. I can't wait to try out the full game on February 19th. Dan, are you guys going to be covering this on GameSpy?
We are. We're working on comparing it to Crysis 1 and Crysis 2. I think it's looking not as good as Crysis 1, but definitely better than Crysis 2.
And of course, you can always find Crysis coverage on IGN, but right now, I just want to get back in the game.